So hello everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. If you're here for the golf preseason webinar, you're at the right place. It is now golf season. So tonight, joining me is Mike Sarnowski, SOMD VP of Sports, and also Steve Bennett, the Senior Director of Community Sports and Competition. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Mike to share some exciting return to activity protocol information. And then I will be joining us shortly to go over the golf specific information.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. If you want to go to the next slide. This is the agenda and all the exciting things. But why don't we go ahead to the updated to this next section. There we go. So first, I want to acknowledge, as many of you know, and with the changes over the last year and a half almost, we have had a team of folks shown here from the areas, a number of areas. It includes coaches, medical folks, athletes, so on down the line, who have been guiding our return to activity protocol. As you know, Special Olympics is an international organization, and we're given a set of protocols that we needed to follow from Special Olympics International. They apply nationwide, actually worldwide, and we've been looking at different ways to adjust. There has been some changes now, actually I want to go to the next slide, we're anticipating a new batch of information coming from SOI, but based on one change that we know is happening, and because the success of you and your programs, your area leadership, your athletes, your other coaches for other sports, since golf is just now starting up, we've had great success with adhering to the protocols and doing things safely. In fact, and getting the information out to folks. One of the things we shared with area directors last night is we have an evaluation out for summer games. And one of the things that we asked is, did you know what the protocols were so you could prepare? And 100% of the people who have responded to the survey said yes, they knew what the protocols were, they had gotten the information, and they were prepared. And that's a big testament to the sharing that everyone's been doing and the support that has come from the area. So great job with that. But with that, we are able to move, look at our the metrics and such, and there's been a shift in those so that now we can shift into phase 3 if we have the average daily number of new cases for the state less than 10. It had previously been, I think, less than 1, but with more knowledge on COVID and how it transmits and increases in vaccination rates and so on down the line. So with that, sorry, it's not the right sport, but Brian, you want to give the next slide? So yes, we are in phase 3, and we're thrilled to do that. So what does phase 3 mean? It's relatively close to normal going forward. So you can see the various phases here. We were most recently for summer games in phase 2A, but for phase 3, outdoor group size, there is no predetermined outdoor group size. And you'll get these slides. Ryan will send all these out, so these will be part of it. We might drop the Federer slide, but other than that. But the group size is determined by local restrictions. So that could be if the state's lifting all of its emergency stuff effective July 1, the state of Maryland, the government, I mean. But if your county has any restrictions, or if the facility that you're utilizing has restrictions, you would need to follow those. Same thing goes for indoor group size. If there are restrictions in your county or that the facility has, you do need to follow those. But otherwise, there are no restrictions. Your program or your area might put some limitations on those, though, just in terms of the number of athletes that can be handled in a program or such. That's something to talk to your area directors or your area leadership. As was the case in phase 2 and 2A, indirect contact is permitted. Also now, direct contact is permitted. So while you're instructing an athlete, or a partner. You could be instructing a partner on, say, their stroke. If you need to hold their arm or whatever, of course, ask permission first, just out of courtesy. But yes, you can have direct contact. Physical distancing is not required within the sport or otherwise. We are encouraging you, though, when you're not in the sport context, to just generally physically distance. It's probably good, but that does mean that the issue we had with golf cart usage and such is not an issue as long as we stay in phase 3. That's the other thing. We're not in phase 3, and we can't sit here and say that we're in phase 3 forever and ever and ever. We're in phase 3 for now. I would anticipate, just based on the way the virus has gone, that we'll be in phase 3 probably until at least the fall. And then we'll see what happens if there's any kind of a surge like there usually is with flu and so on down the line. But we're very optimistic that at least through the golf season, we'll be in phase 3, and these will all apply. So anyhow, so physical distancing, not an issue for any of within your programs, but again, we encourage you to keep people apart when you're not doing sport stuff or for your sport. Outdoor mask protocol and indoor mask protocol for that matter. If your person is fully vaccinated, they are not required. They aren't required now anyway when they are participating in the sport or physical activity. But we had previously been requiring them when they weren't engaged in the sport activity. For outdoor masks and indoor masks, that is not, if they're fully vaccinated, that is not required anymore. If they are not fully vaccinated, they should be wearing them. However, we are not tracking or gathering information on who is vaccinated and who is not. This is to a certain degree a self-monitoring situation. So don't worry about tracking that. In fact, we are requesting that you not track that at this point in time. That might change at some point in the future. But again, so the masks, not required, other than if the person is not fully vaccinated, and they need to self-monitor that. There is no participant screening that's required. Those of you who did stuff last season or have been doing other sports, we had the 4 questions you had to ask and the thermometer, you had to do that. Not required while we're in phase 3, and hopefully we'll be in that for quite a while. There was a communicable disease waiver, which was introduced in, I believe it was March of this year. That is required. That will be required, we anticipate, essentially forever. That's going to get folded into the medical, the release that comes with the medical, as well as the release that comes with the volunteer application. So that'll get picked up when people renew or join. It's not there yet, but that will happen. But in the interim, anybody who hasn't filled one out does need to clarify with that. Last golf season, there was a thing that was called the acknowledgement of risk. That everybody, I think we had 600 people actually sign those or fill them out. That's different. That's no longer applying. There is a separate actual waiver that again was launched in March and is required. So if someone signed that acknowledgement of risk before, that was just a thing that said, yeah, we understand there's a risk. Here, it's actually a waiver. They would need to get it. Your area leadership has access to GMS and can pull that information on what you have and you don't have. Practice log is no longer required. You're welcome to do it. I mean, you should be, it's essentially your attendance list. So hopefully everybody is taking attendance at your practices. So that's still good. And the activity sanction form, which is what your area had to submit ahead of time before you started your program, your training program, that is not required. So Ryan, if we go to the next slide, this repeats some of that, gives it a little bit more fully, but it also does indicate where a local program could potentially be more restrictive. As you see there with the group size, that's potentially there. The indirect and direct contact and physical distancing, you can potentially build that into how you run your program. But if anybody asks, is an area allowed not to, or allowed to say you can't have direct contact? We're going to give an honest answer, and that is not the policy or the standard right now. The mask protocol is explained there. And the rest of that's sort of redundant with what I just said, but it could be helpful to have it a little bit more written out for you there. So I think there's one more in this batch. Yes, you don't get the, oh, there's a couple little summaries, sorry. This had been a 55-minute presentation previously for each of the sports. It's down to less than 10 or 15. So for pre-screening, just as a reminder, pre-screening not required. But again, we do ask that if anybody says that if anybody's not feeling well, this would apply whether we were in COVID or not. If they're not feeling well, they shouldn't come to activities. They should stay at home. Also, if they have actually tested positive for COVID-19, they do need to get a written medical clearance to bring with them before they start back up. And you'll need to keep a copy of that and submit it to your area. Excuse me. I think we have two more kind of highlight things and then one summary slide. So masks, just reiterating there that if you're fully vaccinated and such. So you got that. And then the last of these. So vaccines, as I mentioned, we are not tracking. It is also not a requirement for participation, and per Special Olympics International cannot be made a requirement for participation. So I know people may be thinking, well, we should do that, or they have different opinions. Again, we're part of an international organization. We need to follow their direction on this. And at this point in time, we are not making that, and we cannot make that a requirement. And along those lines, don't ask or track it. Now, I've coached some virtually during this pandemic, and I know the athletes many athletes are very eager to share that, hey, I just got my first shot today or whatever. So they may share it spontaneously, but for now, don't ask. And then it's up to the individual there. So some reminders or just some additional notes. We're going to continue to track the COVID risk level for the state. Again, as I noted before, we're at 1.5, and the new threshold is 10 average new cases per day out of 100,000. So we are well below that. We've been well below that for close to a month, but we're still going to watch it. If it starts to rise, we'll give some additional input. If it does start to rise, if it gets above 10 for the state, and we are looking at things from a state level, we're not looking necessarily at individual counties, but at a state level, then we will give you some additional advice. Reminder about the vaccine. Mentioned about golf carts. Again, that's great. For those of you who coach other sports or who have athletes who coach or who participate in other sports, team sports, just as an aside, we'll be going back to where contact sports can actually play actual games, because both direct contact is permitted and the social distancing is not a requirement anymore. So we anticipate having something close to normal. May have reduced numbers, but for flag football, for soccer, so on down the line. So we're excited for if anybody does powerlifting will be close to that too. We have not yet addressed issues around requirements for transportation that's provided by Special Olympics. So for now, please refrain from that. We may have that in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting again for the updated version from Special Olympics International. They weren't clear on the draft that they initially sent on that. Similarly for overnight accommodations. That would be overnight accommodations that are provided by Special Olympics. I don't know that that kicks in very much during the golf season, but for now, again, we hope to have some additional info on that going forward. But for now, we don't, just avoid it. And then again, things will continue to look different, but we hope to be back to something really close to normal. And hopefully we realize it'll take a while for many of our athletes, many of our coaches, many of our volunteers and families to get comfortable coming back into any kind of a group environment. But we are optimistic that that's going to start changing, and we have the freedom now to do so. So that said, that's what I wanted to share, but I am open if there's any questions on this, because I wanted to get them out of the way before Ryan shifts over and covers some of the golf stuff. So any questions, if you want to raise your hand or put it in the chat, either would be fine. I think anything that's in there already, Steve may have responded. Steve, was there anything?
Yeah, nothing's come in relation to any questions regarding protocols or anything else at this time.
Great. Okay.
at least on the chat. Yep.
Okay. And I don't see any hands. So again, if you do have questions as you're going forward and you get into your season, please feel free to ask. You can check with your area director first. Potentially he or she may be more immediately available, but you can also send them into headquarters. Again, we're pretty excited about this opportunity and the ability to do things much more freely. But we'll be watching, and hopefully we'll be able to stay at this phase 3 for quite some time. But there's no guarantee on that. So just want to be upfront on that. That said, I'm going to go ahead, since we don't have questions, I'm going to go ahead and mute. And Ryan, it's all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Some exciting news there. Moving over to golf here, specific information. So here is our golf sport management team, just to highlight some of these members, many of which you probably recognize. Mike Cumberpatch, he's a rules official and also a United States Golf Association, part of that. Bill Lowe, he's a unified partner and coach for St. Mary's County. Marty Parks, Martin Parks goes by Marty, rules official also with USGA. Bob Baker, unified partner, the area director for Howard County. And then Kendall Zeswitz, who used to be in the position that I am now. And we are also looking for an athlete to be a part of this team. So if there's anybody in your county that sticks out to you, that loves the sport, is semi-knowledgeable but doesn't have to be an expert in the sport and just willing to work with our team. Typically we meet a few times a year to go over any rule changes, also planning for the state championship. So if you have anybody in mind, please email or call me directly. We can walk through if that would be a good fit for the team there. So qualifying for the state tournament, there's a few things that are required for your athletes to attend the competition this year and in years past. So please host a qualifying competition in your area or county. You are allowed to host more than one. I would encourage you to do so and try to get them lined up as soon as possible, just so we can get that word out to everybody. It'll also be posted on the coach resource page, just so everybody's aware, and then they can attend those, and likewise for you. So again, 2 at the minimum, but feel free to have more than just 2. So as a reminder, no athlete or volunteer may participate in Special Olympics without a valid certification. So we'll go through on the next page here what that entails for each individual, but there are no exceptions to this policy. So this is a slide that you've seen before. I just want to stress, no matter who you are, that communicable disease waiver, like Mike mentioned, will be here for a while, and that must be completed in advance of any competition or practice, even if that's virtual. That form needs to be filled out. Please send that to Dottie in the state office here. I'll include her email on the email that'll be sent out with this slide deck along with the recording. And CC me on that also, just so I have that. But please get those in as soon as you can, just so we can get that out of the way and we can focus on the sports season.
Ryan, actually with those, they should go through whatever their process is for their area. So yeah, most areas have their own process for who goes and submits the stuff. So let's stick with that. Okay?
Got it. All right. Thank you for that correction. So for the golf registration deadlines for this year, so the training registration deadline, which is the one where all your athletes need to be entered into GMS, that will be August 12th. So all your athletes need to be entered into GMS at that time. If they're submitted after that date, they will not be eligible for the state games. With your forms that need to be submitted, that deadline will be August 19th. So what that includes for the athletes is them to have their medical in. Every coach, partner, volunteer must have their volunteer application in, protective behaviors, CDW, and all of those forms need to be through the end of the year. Currently, as we'll talk about down the road in a few slides here, the Golf State Championships looking to be September 26th. So that's why that date is what that is there. So all coaches and sport volunteers, as we saw before, must have concussion certification completed and submitted to headquarters here by that date. All assistant coaches must have that same information done again by August 19th there. So the competition registration deadline, August 2nd. September 2nd. Again, looking at having the competition at Queenstown Harbor again on the 26th. So delegation members, team rosters, and their events entered into GMS. Again, please have them in by that deadline. That's so we can start putting tee times together, so we can get that schedule out so everybody's on the same page as early as possible. So as a reminder of the levels here, level 1, individual skills. Level 2, alternate shot, which is 9 holes unified. Level 3, alternate shot, except that is 18 holes and unified. And then the last two here, 4 and 5, will be traditional. Individual stroke play, 9 holes for level 4. And level 5 will be the athlete playing 18 holes. So some rule reminders here. In the past, and back in 2019, I believe it was, these are kind of just reminders from past years, but some things that we want to focus on here. One of them was how to drop the ball. So that used to be from the shoulder height. As of a few years ago, that ball should now be dropped straight down from the knee. In the past, you've had 5 minutes to find a lost ball. That has been cut down to 3 minutes. And with the flag stick, if the ball does hit the flag stick from anywhere, it is not a 2-stroke penalty anymore. So the coaches training, I talked to Marty Parks earlier this week. He's looking to try to set something up at the Country Club of Maryland, which is located in Towson. So there you can see the 2 dates that tentatively we're planning to set something up for. Just so you are aware, it'll probably be a 10 to 10:30 to noonish type of deal. So about an hour and a half to 2 there on a Saturday. And again, that'll be at the Country Club of Maryland, a beautiful golf course there. So I will follow up over email once that's solidified. And please attend that if you need to renew your coach's certification. If you don't, Marty's very knowledgeable. I know we'd love a big crowd there and get ahead of that for future years, along with some great reminders for this year. So regarding competitions, as we talked about, a minimum of 2 for each athlete and each county needing to host 1. A sanction form needs to be completed, and that is what needs to be submitted to me in advance so we can make everybody aware of what's going on. If you don't have access to one of those, your area director definitely does. But if you need a reminder what that looks like, that will be up on the coach's resource page. If you go check that out now, it will be there. Again, with other upcoming competitions, there's a section on that page that will lay out exactly what's going on and what you can attend. With that, though, I would encourage you, when there's opportunities come out, please jump on them as fast as you can and notify myself and the area director so we are aware of how many numbers, because we have a limited amount of spots for each qualifier there. That is important. Saves a lot of trouble on a lot of people if we can do that.
And one thing I'll add, this is Steve, is typically, and I understand, especially in this year, a lot of times the first couple qualifying events in golf tend to be not attended very well, and everybody scrambles towards the end of the season to get their 2 qualifying competitions in to be able to be eligible for the state. So again, just don't try or try not to wait till the last minute, as those spots may fill up towards the end of the season, and get in those competitions as early as you can, and appreciate that.
Yep. And in the past, go ahead, Steve.
And the other thing, you may have this on the upcoming slide, but we're here also to assist as needed with any competitions. I know as 2019, we did help and supported Carroll County in hosting their first one. And, again, we're here. We're not necessarily looking to run all the competitions for your programs, but if you have a challenge or are unsure of what to do, etc., we can help support you in hosting those competitions with, tee times or setup, that kind of stuff. So again, just reach out to Ryan if you have a need or you have questions, we're here to support you.
That's one of the reasons I'm here. I'd be happy to work alongside you with that. In the past, you may have noticed on this slide, we had a few competitions laid out. This webinar is a little bit earlier than typical here. So just wanted to get you this information out. But again, you'll be notified regarding upcoming competitions. So regarding the rules, please reference the coach's resource page, which you can see the link there. It'll have the rules for Special Olympics, along with the United States Golf Association rules, a coaching guide, which is very extended but very helpful, especially if you're a new coach. It'll include the competitions like we talked about, also information regarding the NIT and anything else that we feel is important. That will also be the location of the results post the state competition, along with any of your qualifying events. So here is just my contact information. I know when I reached out on my original email and they said, please, if you're not on that distribution list, reach out to me so I can get everyone added here. Early on at the beginning of the season here, some of you reached out and said, please, please, please add blank and blank. If there is anybody else that comes to mind, please let me know just so we can get that set in stone for this year and everybody on the same page. But there is my contact information. If you need to call me and it's urgent, do not hesitate doing so. Please leave a voicemail or text me though. If it's a random number, I probably will not pick up the first time. So there's my information there. Resources, we talked about that page. If you're interested in information regarding other sports, I know we have a few coming up, especially with kayaking, and then swimming. The summer games will be happening in just over a week or so from now. Please reach out to the respective sports director listed there.
And one of the things I also mentioned for the coaches, hopefully some of you were able to use the virtual training guide that we created last year during the season to keep the athletes and partners and you as coaches engaged with the sport of golf. There's a lot of good things in there that could still be utilized this season for homework, if you will, for the athletes to continue working on certain skill sets for golf. So know that that's there. There's also things in there that can really help with your 8 to 10 week training program to kind of use as a template. So don't want to let that document die, if you will. Again, there's a lot of good information and a lot of effort that went into creating that. So that's also a great resource to utilize as well.
Something that came to mind, please work with your area directors setting up those competitions. And again, they will need to sign off on that sanction form, just so we're all kept in the loop on that. So just wanted to add that. Apologies for getting that the first go around. Any other questions?
I have not seen any questions that have come through in chat.
All right. If any come to mind, please reach out. Again, this will be sent out over email and also posted on the coaches resource page by tomorrow. So if you think of anything and can't find it in that slide deck, reach out. Be happy to help you. Looking forward to another exciting season. It's cool to see that protocol is lifted a little bit and we can focus on the sport that we love here. Again, thank you very much for all your hard work. I look forward to working alongside you again this year. And please reach out with anything. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. And I just want to apologize that we had set this up for 90 minutes and we're done so much quicker since we don't have almost an hour on COVID protocols. So I know you're all disappointed. So. Okay. Have a great Father's Day as well. So.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys for everything you've done in the past 2 years. We're excited to get back to play and working with your athletes. It was extremely emotional and awesome to see everybody get back at summer games this past weekend. We got swimming coming up on June 26th. And for you guys as coaches, working with the athletes and partners and providing the guidance, direction, and knowledge of the sport. Without you, we don't have a golf program. So really just want to thank you for all of your continued efforts bringing high level of golf professionalism and sportsmanship to Special Mix Maryland. And keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out on the courses. Welcome back, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.